Hi, dear teachers. How are you today? How are you doing? My name is Tania Jimenez from TaniaTeacherTraining.com, and today we will be talking about task-based learning, how to apply it in your classroom. Okay? Task-based learning says that meaning comes before form. Okay? As you can read here, it says focus on meaning and express it the best way linguistically. Okay, so first meaning, then form. We are going to be covering form, that's for sure, but first meaning. Okay, so stay here if you want to find out more about the application of TBL. Let's start, shall we? For TBL, we have three stages, three basic stages: the pre-task, the task cycle, and the language focus. What is the pre-task? The pre-task is an introduction to the topic and to the task itself. We explore the topic with the class, we introduce useful vocabulary and phrases for students, and we help them understand the nature of the task and prepare them for the task. Okay? Then we have the task cycle. The task is done in pairs or in small groups. Why? Because the basic principle of TBL is to work with constructivism. That means that you construct your learning with the help of other people when you share, okay? And the teacher only monitors. Then we move on to planning, here, where students prepare the report for the whole class. And finally, the report. Some groups present the report orally or exchange their written report. Okay, that is the task cycle. And finally, the language focus, where we analyze and we practice with the students the TL, the things that they have just learned. Okay, we analyze the language because we said meaning before form, but we are not going to forget about the form or the structures. We need to cover them as well. Okay, now let's see the lesson that I have prepared for my higher intermediate students. Okay, we will be dealing with the topic of cold, and I'm gonna start by telling them a story about myself, about the coldest day I remember in my life. That was when I was in France, and that day I was freezing, really. I was wearing my thermal boots and my scarf and everything, but I couldn't really breathe because it hurt me so much. And then I continue with my story. Okay. Then I ask the students this question: what's the coldest that you have ever been? When they start giving me their answers, I write everything on the board and I take advantage of brainstorming on phrases expressing cold and brainstorming on ways to keep warm. I'm going to write those two things on the board. Here I have, as you can see, some pictures for my students so they get better ideas or they get more ideas. And I will be introducing the concept of cold store and freezer because of my lesson. Okay, so this is the pre-task part. 5 to 7 minutes just to set up the context or the topic. Then I will move on to the task part. As we saw at the beginning, there are three stages. First is the task where students discuss and they start preparing, themselves. Then the planning stage, and then the report stage. In this case, where you see what you see here in black is the part that my students will be doing during the lesson, during today's lesson. I'm going to set up a prediction task. I'm going to play a video or a part of a video, and then I'm going to stop it and ask my students to predict what will happen next in the video and what questions they would ask about this video. Let's watch the video.
On May the 23rd, 2012, Odense University Hospital inaugurated a modern cold store for storage of tissue samples in extreme cold temperatures. Johnson Controls Polytechnic has designed and developed the unique cold store installation. The new cold store building.
Okay, I'm going to stop it right there. And students, like I said, they need to tell me what will come next in the video and what questions they want to ask about the cold store. Okay? So I will give them time to do that. They need to discuss and decide the content of the report. Remember, they're working in pairs or in small groups. When they finish discussing for 2 minutes, they will write notes, they will write their questions, they will write, well, I think in the video they will show me this, and that. Okay? And after they finish doing that, they exchange their questions with other teams. So the other teams can find probably some mistakes and correct them or circle them. Then they get their notes back or their questions back. And before they do the report, I will play the rest of the video to show them the questions that are in the video and to show them if they were right about their prediction. Let's continue watching the video. It's only for 1 more minute.
Which is the first and largest of its kind in Europe, has a 352 square meter large cold store cell designed for room temperatures down to -80 degrees Celsius and a -5 degrees Celsius anteroom for the exchange of tissue samples. The numerous frozen tissue samples from Odense University Hospital will be stored centrally in the large cold store cell, which will also function as a facility for long-term storage of a large number of research projects, for instance, the Danish Cancer Biobank. Earlier, these tissue samples were stored in 110 different -80 degrees Celsius chest freezers spread throughout the hospital. By collecting and registering the tissue samples, they become available to a large number of researchers who no longer have to build their own data bank. As the plant at Odense University Hospital is the first of its kind in Europe, the project required new thinking and innovative solutions in response to all the questions raised during the project. Is it possible to work in these temperatures? Do people get frostbite in mouth or throat when breathing in -80 degrees Celsius for a longer period of time? What about safety, and what kind of clothing should people wear when working in the cold store cell? Which type of lighting can be used in -80 degrees? How should the room be designed? Even though Johnson Controls has over 100 years of experience in designing and constructing cold stores, the extreme environment of -80 degrees Celsius has presented certain challenges. During the project phase, all the raised questions have been answered in cooperation with, among others, the hospital's own health and safety group and the Sirius Sledge Patrol, who gave advice on suitable clothing for the personnel to help them tolerate the extreme conditions. The solution was 4 layers of clothing: wool, thermo, mid-layer, and a polar suit, 2 hats, and 2 layers of socks in thermo boots, and one can only stay in the cold store cell for a maximum of 10 minutes.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop the video right there. And I will ask students, okay, were your predictions right? Did the video show you what you were expecting? What kind of questions did you have? And that's time for the report, where students read their questions out loud and they share their questions with the other teams. Okay, now we are going to do something very important here. We're going to vote for the most interesting questions. Why? Because students need to reach an agreement. They need to how can I say it? They need to think about it. Why is this question interesting for the rest of the people? Okay. So after they finish doing that, asking each other the questions, comparing their questions to the questions in the video, we have finished the task cycle. Remember, we're doing this briefly, but in your lesson, you will take 1 hour or more. Okay, this was the task cycle.
Health and safety group.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay. Now we have the language focus stage where we analyze and practice the language. Okay, remember we said meaning before form, but let's not forget about the form, which is very important too. Okay, remember students learn in 3 ways. First, by being exposed to the language. Second, by interacting with other people. And third, by paying attention to structures. So this is the third part. Well, I will have my students watch the video again, and they need to write down this time some interesting phrases related to cold temperature and to keeping warm. Okay, I expect to have these answers. Extreme environment, 80 degrees Celsius, get frostbites, thermal boots, etc. Okay? And then they can write their sentences or they can write a paragraph related to what they saw in the video, but using this new vocabulary. And remember not to work with isolated words, but with chunks of language, collocations, fixed expressions, etc. Okay? Now, language focus, the second part, structuring questions. Remember, since the beginning, students were writing questions. Okay, this is the moment to pay attention to the structure of each question. I am going to play the video, but only in the part where the questions are asked. And I'm going to ask my students to divide the questions into 2 categories: yes/no questions and WH questions, okay? Because they have a different structure. We know that we use first, sorry, I'm having some technical difficulties. Okay, first using the WH question and then the auxiliary. And we know that in order to begin a yes/no question, we need to begin by using the auxiliary. Students need to realize about this because they need to improve the way they structure the questions. Okay? Then after that, these are questions from the video. They need to ask the questions that they already did in the first part of the cycle. The cycle of the task. Okay, so they write their own questions, but now they categorize them into yes or no and WH questions. And finally, in order to practice, they design an interview for a cold store worker. They can do a role play, they can write the questions, they can practice some more. That's up to you, teacher, and on the time that you have left. Okay, because we're doing this very fast, but you will have more than 1 hour to cover this. So let's go over the steps. Okay, again, we have the pre-task, we have the task cycle, and we have the language focus. First of all, we need to start talking about the topic here. And then we're going to give them the task. They prepare it in groups, they write the questions, they prepare the report, and they report to other teams. And finally, we analyze the language, the TL, the grammar involved, the vocabulary, the phrases, the chunks of language. Okay? Well, teachers, this is how you structure a TBL lesson. If this was a useful lesson for you, or you found some useful information, please give us a like and don't forget to subscribe and to click on the little bell so you don't miss anything. Okay? And remember, my name is Tania Jimenez from TaniaTeacherTraining.com. Go to our website if you're interested in more information about frameworks, about how to teach, about tips for your lessons, anything. You will find a lot of important information. So I'll see you soon, teachers. Remember, never stop learning. See you soon. Bye.